Hello, you're listening to a very special episode of Fort Fritz. I am Fritz, joined as always by Mandaddy.
Hi.
And Angela.
Hello.
Kaz couldn't make it tonight. We want to talk about how important June 12th is to us. I was telling Angela and Mandaddy before we even started tonight, we knew going into this that it's going to be a really heavy topic, but we feel like it's something that we need to talk about. When Pulse happened, it was shocking to the entire world, not just Orlando. And we have very personal stories. I'd like to share mine just briefly. I remember waking up on the Sunday that was June 12th to a text from the program director from Real Radio 104.1, Jack Bradshaw. And the text was, "Can you come in today?" I woke up around 8:30 in the morning and I said, "On a Sunday, ? Sure." And he responded back as my wife was waking up next to me saying, "Is everything okay?" Because I was like sitting up in the bed, like looking at my phone thinking, what's going on?
Right.
The response I got back was, "Check the news." And when I said that to my wife, it was Sean Walson, and then at the time, other Phillips File members, Jim Phillips and Jack Bradshaw. Jim Colbert was there, Russ Rollins was there, Carlos Navarro was there, and then other just ancillary people who were called in. And I heard Sean Walson report 34 people dead at Orlando's Pulse Nightclub. And I remember just absentmindedly pulling on my pants with no underwear, putting on my shoes with no socks, putting on my shirt, brushing my teeth, and getting the hell out of the house. And on the way to the station, I live about 12 minutes away, I heard Sean say, 38 now dead. And when I got there, Jack gave me a quick kind of cursory
Tutorial.
Yeah. You know, like, hey, this is breaking news. This is what you do. In the margins of this notebook, note the time, write down what's being said, and then over time you can cross out things that no longer make sense or don't apply. It was a factual way of looking at dead people.
Yeah.
And it immediately hit me as, okay. That broadcast lasted from 9 a.m. in the morning until 8 p.m. We forwent every stop set. We blew out every commercial, and we were live from 9 in the morning until 8 p.m.
It was so needed. It was, because I remember listening while having the TV on, so watching, having whatever news on the TV, but listening to y'all to hear the perspective of, if you're a Real Radio fan, it's like your friends. If you've been listening to Real Radio as long as I have, it's like you feel like you know these people. Some I actually do, but to hear your friends and family during a tragedy like this in Orlando was so necessary. I felt
it was so heavy hitting, and what got me is what happened afterwards. I didn't even allow myself to process what was going on. I was there giving, like, with talkback. So in radio, if you don't know, so every person's microphone, you have a little button you can hit and say, I want to talk to Carlos Navarro only, and I don't want anyone else to hear. So you hit Carlos's talkback and you go, "Hey, this is a stat." Every time I would do a talkback, someone would look at me and then they would half close their eyes and shake their heads. And it was just one of those defeatist moments. When the broadcast ended at 8 p.m., I went to a bar close to the house, and there were two people at the bar. One of them was my wife. And as I walked in, John Lennon's Imagine was playing.
Oh, jeez.
Oh, man.
And it was one of those, like, just Christ moments.
Yeah.
And it was heavy. A couple of days later, Jack said, "I called you in because, number one, Jim Phillips, who, hasn't been affiliated with Real Radio because he's retired now, God bless him, for about a year and a half, but he got there around 5 in the morning, and Jack got there around 6, and he said, Jim Phillips told Jack, if we need more people here, get Fritz." And when Jack told me that, it was one of those, like, almost cursed moments. And I knew that I was needed on behalf of 104.1, and I knew that it was the worst possible situation, the worst possible scenario to get my foot in the door.
Yeah.
So that's my story about Pulse. It was terrible, but I waited from 9 a.m. until 8 p.m. I got off work and I heard Imagine playing by John Lennon, and I hugged my wife and I bawled. And it was the first time I allowed myself to cry.
It's a long day to deal with all of that.
And it was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. So me saying that, I hope someone out there can maybe resonate with the feeling that I'm bringing across right now, and just like sometimes life hits you in a way that you don't even expect. You know, I didn't know anyone personally affected, but that's my people. I mean, I was living in Orlando, and then a couple of weeks after that was Father's Day, and I remember being with my parents in Apopka, and they were like, you know, it was a shame. Oh, it's devastating. And my wife and I was like, I don't think you really get it. If we were still living downtown, we would have been one of those victims just caught up in a Saturday night, just having a couple drinks before 2 a.m. to do the 1 mile drive home. You know, it would have been as simple as that. And the looks on my parents' faces, I don't ever want to remember. They got it in that moment. And it was like seeing them respond to someone saying that we had both died.
Yeah.
It was just a heavy, heavy feeling. And it was tough. So allow me to kind of say that and just bridge the gap, because this story is constantly written every day since June 12th, 2016.
Yeah.
So would anyone like to tell their story about that day?
Yeah, I didn't see anything the night before. But when I woke up the next morning, I just went on Facebook, and a friend of mine actually, Steven from my show that I just did at Fringe, I saw his post, and it was, please tell me everyone's okay. And that's all his post said on Facebook. And I didn't know what that meant. And I had plans to meet up with someone at for brunch that morning. And she's another dancer in town. She dances with the Orlando Ballet, and I've worked with her as a choreographer. And I mean, it was like one of those things. It's like we'd already had plans to have this brunch just to catch up, but it was kind of all we talked about during the brunch.
That's how can you not?
Where we were just sitting there trying to catch up, because that was the whole point of this brunch. We hadn't talked in a while, and the whole time was just like we kept going on social media and watching in the news and watching the numbers climb of the confirmed deaths, and seeing where it was in the town we lived in, and just not understanding how it was in this community that we lived in. And we kept looking at each other going, we have to know one of these people. Like, the numbers just keep going up. Like, we must know one of these people. I almost feel in a weird way guilty saying that I didn't. You know, when I saw all those names, I felt really kind of bad. Like, where it's like, you feel bad because it happened in your community. And I know that's a very strange...
It's a weird side of survivor's guilt.
It is. It is a weird... Like, it was this weird, like... Because it is my pain, but it didn't feel like my pain. We're almost like, I'm not allowed to feel as sad as I do because I didn't know anybody. But it is a community in which I did know people who knew a lot of those people.
Sure.
So as I'm on social media and seeing a lot of my friends who did know people that had died in this.
Well, the thing is it could be any people.
It could.
You know, the fact that you didn't happen to know these doesn't mean you're not going to know the next.
Right.
And that's disgusting.
But I think the weirdest thing about it is that I actually knew the shooter.
What?
And that I didn't realize it seeing his picture and his name. But later on in the day, a friend of mine sent me a text, and she said, you know, we went to high school with him, right?
No way.
Whoa, I didn't know that.
I had no idea.
And she sent me the picture of our yearbook, and I looked at it, and I was like, oh my God, I absolutely remember him. Now, we went to one of the schools where we had like almost like 2,000 freshman class, right?
Geez.
I mean, like so many people. But I did remember him. And I don't think he ended up graduating with us, so I didn't really know him all the way through high school, but I remember him freshman and possibly sophomore year.
That's crazy.
But I think that was the other thing that kind of made me feel so screwed up about it too, was that I didn't know anybody who had died. I knew people who died, but I actually knew who he was.
Wow.
Again, it just felt very too close to home in many ways.
I'm sure.
Because it was this place that I live now, but also attached to this place that I was born and raised. And he actually, like, him and his wife lived like a couple blocks from that friend who sent me a text. So she could see like all the policemen around their house and everything. So it was affecting me in a lot of ways. And then I felt this weird feeling of guilt leaving Orlando, because that was about 2 or 3 days before I went to LA for the first time. We had this great trip. That was the time I went to the E3 conference. This is obviously in 2016. You know, like the first thing we did was get in the hotel room and watch the news and just watching it. And it was like this weird, I feel like I should be home.
Right.
Like I felt very weird, like being away and like trying to have this fun vacation, knowing that this thing happened in my town.
Yeah, that your home is hurting.
Right. And not being there. And I think one of the most therapeutic things that happened is we went to West Hollywood, which is known for being a very gay-centric area in LA, in the LA area. And they had this huge "We Love Orlando" sign up that made me feel a lot more connected.
Being so far like away from
we were
home
across,
and
we were across the country and seeing this "We Love Orlando" sign. And
that's gotta hurt
a lot.
When we were in West Hollywood, we ended up going to Pump, which is owned by Lisa Vanderpump, who is from Real Housewives of Orange County or Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. And it is like her restaurant / poshy lounge bar thing. We went in the middle of the day. It was kind of fun because it's like, oh, this restaurant's always on that show. You know, this like ridiculous real reality show TV. When we got there, our server came over and like, oh, where are you guys from? We said Orlando. And they were immediately like, oh my God, are you guys okay? Did you know anybody? And then they were like, you know, there's someone here. His name was Louis. They were like, he's from Orlando. And he came over and was like, did you guys know anybody? I kind of knew someone through somebody. And we like connected with one of the servers there who's from Orlando. And we ended up,
it's a small world.
We ended up spending like 6 hours there.
Oh, really?
And and we had, you know, a really nice time of just like drinking. And he kept coming over, the same server from Orlando, and checking in on us and everything. And we just kept like, as the drinks were flowing, opening up about things, and because he was gay, you know, and when we're West Hollywood, which is where most gay people live in LA, is a big like community over there. So it felt really good to be in that area and seeing that sign, and it really made me feel better about being out there. And I felt a little more connected, and I felt there's just a lot of love because a lot of servers kept coming over and asking us like how we were doing and
for sure, and
connecting with us. So that was my experience with that.
One thing that not a lot of people, and I hope people remember what was going on at Pulse, but it was a Hispanic LGBTQ night.
Yes.
So it was a disproportionate amount of the Hispanic population, which is already unfairly criticized and demonized for their predisposed, you know, quote unquote choice. But I remember talking to people in radio, and I told them, man, what a loss for the Hispanic population.
Yeah.
And everyone I said that to said, no, it's not about that. No. It's about this one person, blah, blah, blah. Nobody wanted to have the conversation of stop. Let's face the facts. And a disproportionate amount of the Hispanic LGBTQ community was taken from us. 49 people died because it was a Latin night.
Mm-hmm.
And it was frustrating to me that so many people wanted to just say, no, it's not about that. It was one person, blah, 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 blah. And to this day, it still infuriates me that not enough people know it was a Latin Pride night.
Yeah.
49 people died, and like 89% of those people were of a mixed Latina or Latino heritage. And I still haven't heard that.
Gets overshadowed a lot.
Yeah, it does.
In Thank you. In 3 years now, I still have not heard that. A disproportionate amount of the Latino community was killed that night.
For me, it was odd because before it was Pulse. It was a place called Dante's, and I had actually played there multiple times. And even when it was Pulse, I had gone there within the last 2 years or so before before this happened for a work party. And so I was very familiar with the place itself. And I had played a show the night it happened, and had a great show, have fun, going home and sitting there. Yeah, you were there, and sitting on my bed and watching the news as it unfolded. Because I'm a bat, I stay up late every night, and just sitting there.
You are a bat. You are bat life. Hashtag bat life.
Hashtag bat life. I'm a bat.
Thank God there's some kind of levity. We could always make fun of man daddy.
That's what I'm here for.
Jesus Christ.
And so as a bat, I'm just sitting there up watching the body count grow, and just knowing I'm a native. I was born in Orlando. I have lived my whole life in Orlando, and to feel that, and for the days after, it reminded me of after a hurricane, where the news is centered on this one particular event. People are talking about it, and it has a way of bringing a community together.
Let's kind of go back just 24 hours previous. Christina Grimmie was shot to death at the
plaza.
At the plaza.
Yeah. And so
that was horrible.
And that was shocking.
Awful. And that was
that was a horrible thing. I mean, she was shot in the face, right?
But everyone was I don't know necessarily,
just
but
walked up to her table and took her out.
But
and her poor brother was there. It was awful.
Everyone, I think, in Orlando thought, well, lone wolf, right? That's not going to happen again.
And it happened 24 hours later.
Yeah.
Not even, or a little more than that.
Yeah.
I don't even know.
But I think what I wanted to say is that, and we're here telling our stories, and everyone that's from Orlando that was around at the time, they have a story to tell, and they have a way it was affected. And the one thing that during this anniversary is, remember, it's not about us, it's not about anybody, it's about them, and it's about making sure this doesn't fucking happen again. We need to address this problem. And the problem, yes, guns are part of the problem, okay? I'm allowed to say it. I'm sick of this whole thing that in America, we can't talk about guns. Guess what? Every other country has talked about guns, and every other country has had something done that has been effective, that has proven to be effective, but just we won't do it. And that's the problem right now, is there's so much in America that we just won't do. We won't stop this hate. We won't look at the actual problems. We will deflect, and we will say, oh, this is not the time. This is the time.
It's really, really hard, man, daddy, when the Second Amendment to the Constitution guarantees this will happen again. Not to take that political slant, but almost to be your devil's advocate. The Second Amendment guarantees anybody can own a gun, which is frightening and terrifying. And yeah, obviously, when this happens in any other country, things are done to stop this.
Right. Every other country.
This will not stop. And I think that's the most crippling takeaway from this.
It's disgusting.
Is that June 12th, 2016 is lurking around the corner, and it's going to happen again. And it doesn't need to.
No, it does not need to. And this fetishism with the Second Amendment, and these people that'll sit there and parse about everything. It says the words well regulated, but someone go, but excuse me, it says a militia, and a militia is guaranteed. Shut up. Okay? People are dying for no goddamn reason.
Especially 49 people.
No one needs a gun with a giant magazine. No one needs a gun that can shoot this many bullets at a certain amount of time. I respect everyone's gun rights. I am a believer in gun rights. I am a staunch believer in gun rights. But you do not need these giant magazines.
I have a gun right here.
I agree.
In the studio.
Guns are for one thing and one thing only. They're to kill people. That's it. Yes, you can target practice them. They're for killing things. No one made a gun for target practice. Guns were made to eliminate other human beings. And when we as a society will just say, what happened this week? 13 kids were just gunned down in school. Oh, well, that's just the price of freedom. I'm sick of it. I'm fucking sick of it. And this happens, and it's going to happen this week. This week, I guarantee you, this week, multiple people will be killed somewhere. And we won't even remember. 12 people were just gunned down about a week ago. We're not even talking about it anymore because, it's just 12? And that's where we are in America. At America, if you have anything that's less than 20 people killed, it just barely even touches the radar. And I'm sorry, I'm sick of it. I'm fucking sick of it.
Had the founding fathers known, giving the right to own something that can willfully and easily kill someone.
No, hundreds, dozens.
I think, 37,000 people every year in the United States.
Yeah.
Had the founding fathers known that, they would have said, no, what have we done? So the whole idea of, it's the Second Amendment, as I just said, as a devil's advocate, you're not going to remove that amendment.
This is
going to happen again.
It's because of the gun lobby. It's because of the NRA. It's because of the money.
But having said that, in hindsight, which is always dick in hand, this amendment would have never flown. This would have never had wings. This amendment would have never been in the American Constitution. This amendment would have been forgotten. This amendment would have prevented the deaths of untold innocent people.
Going to what Fritz just said, it was a different time.
Yeah.
And thinking of what they just came out of was fighting for their lives against, British rule.
Right.
Of course, it was like, we need to be able to protect ourselves and have the right to protect ourselves. It was a different time. I agree. I think in hindsight, they would have thought about the way that they wrote this differently. I don't think they considered that something of this caliber that we have now created would exist, or that anyone would even think to create something like this. But I don't know.
It took 30 seconds to reload a musket.
Right.
And at that point, that person would be
tackled, hopefully.
And
But we don't know that, and that's I'm never going to be on the pro NRA side. That's just not in my DNA. You can send me hate mail all you want. Fritz@realradio.fm.
They were what they used to be. They used to be about safety and education, and that's out the window decades ago.
However, I will always say we have nothing to combat this with. This will happen again
and again
and again and again.
Yeah.
And that's the sad reality of America.
Well, what we have to combat this with are new laws and regulations.
They will not pass.
That they will not
pass.
Do anything with.
They will never pass.
Like Mandaddy was saying, other countries will use.
But
we have them.
We have the NRA though.
Right.
Yeah.
As the rebuttal.
And the fact is
that
we have...
the saddest part about it.
Money rules American politics. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it already ruled American politics once the Citizens United was passed. Now, money owns politics, and the NRA is one of the biggest lobbies in America, and they are there for the gun manufacturers.
I mean, not to go off on this, but it's like prescription drugs as well. It's the same thing.
It's exactly the same thing.
It's that whole capitalist mindset that we're trapped in.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing, the whole only person that can stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. That's being told to you by a person that wants to sell you 2 guns.
Yeah,
that's all they care about.
No, literally, I heard that from growing up. I met my future wife. We were dating at the time, and her dad was a sheriff's deputy, and I was like, okay, cool. And I
cool.
I volunteered actually at the Orange County Sheriff's Office. So if anyone wants to heat check me, I will heat check you back. Have you volunteered at the Orange County Sheriff's Office? Because I have. I voluntarily gave my fingerprints to the Orange County Sheriff's Office to volunteer for my father-in-law. So do that first before you want to come at me. But he's in the same boat. It's ridiculous. 49 people celebrating life and dancing at a nightclub should not be dead.
No.
But at the same time, nobody has an answer for this.
No.
And it doesn't matter.
We refuse to. That's it.
Well,
we refuse to.
It doesn't matter who has the answer because anyone else is going to be upset by it. But you know what? 49 people have no voice now. And the Latino LGBTQ community was disproportionately affected. And at the time, that was not heavily reported. It needs to be reported. 49 people from that community was fucking taken away from us. And it was a shame. And reflecting back on Pulse, there's still just wide open wounds of anger and regret and remorse, and I hope it gets better. I really do.
Yeah, we'll be bringing this up on our episode, our broadcast episode, which will be airing on Friday night at 8. But during this Pride Month, you're going to see these people online that are just being the biggest, most vicious assholes. And yeah, attack them all you want. They deserve nothing but they're the worst people in the world.
They deserve kindness. They deserve love. I disagree.
Well, you see, that's the thing. I hate to me is precious, and it's a weird thing to say because there's so much that deserves hate. Injustice deserves hate. But people take this power that hate can give you, that can motivate you, and hate people for what they love. And that's stupid. And so when you're seeing these people online, I think an interesting way for this month to really confuse them is to ask them, okay, why do you hate gay people? Why do you hate gay people? Like, what's your reason? Give me a reason, and I'm sure they'll probably run to something off of Leviticus. And if they bring up Leviticus, just tell them, you better not eat any shrimp or be wearing any mixed fabrics.
Or Deuteronomy. I mean, that's my favorite book of the Bible.
But just ask these people and try to confront them.
And that's a lie.
I just like the word Deuteronomy.
Yeah, Levi and Deut. There should be a little, like, a classically animated, like, 2 dumb Bibles.
This week on Deuteronomy.
2 dumb books just constantly running into, like, Levi and Deut. It's like, what do you think, Deut? I don't know, Levi. Burp, burp, burp. No shrimp.
I feel like I heard.
No shrimp.
I feel like I was high at a bar mitzvah the first time I heard the word Deuteronomy, and I was like, what?
Yeah. Did you just make that up, dog?
But I saw someone that's like if someone says a derogatory term to you, act like you don't know what it means. And watch them try to explain it.
Right, like, what do you mean by that?
And say and do that to people, these gay hate people online, and just be like, wait, what do you mean by that? Why do you? What, I mean, this person just loves another person, and they just want to be with the person they love. Why do you hate that? Why do you hate that?
How can we combat hate?
The automatic thing you'd say is with love.
Well, what are some easy things right now you can do to combat hate? For instance, I would say vote with your dollar, vote with your clicks.
Yeah.
Don't click on any kind of obvious hate spiel video.
Right.
If it's
more importantly,
anything,
vote.
InfoWars, News Wars, I guess they're like rebranding themselves.
Proud Boys.
Don't click on any of that stuff. And
if you see someone talking about a straight pride parade, just slap them.
Yeah.
That is the stupidest damn thing.
What did someone post the other day? It was like, you want a straight pride parade? Like, that's just called traffic.
Yeah, that's just called Chick-fil-A.
Yeah. Oh.
Reach out to your local neighborhood. Like, everyone knows that this person, person A, everyone knows that this person is righteous in the LGBTQ community. Reach out to that person and say, how can I get involved? Don't go online. Don't Google how I can get involved, because they're going to say, well, donate to this, government, whatever. No, start local.
Yeah.
In Orlando, Florida, in Central Florida, in the Southeast United States. Reach out to the LGBTQ community and say, how can I better myself through you? And you will be pleasantly surprised. People will immediately take you in arms and say, oh my God, we need someone like you. No matter what your background, if you think you're not good enough, if you think, if you are depressed and you think that the world is sick and dying, reach out to someone in the LGBTQ community and say, how can I help further your message of tolerance, of love, and acceptance? Because that's all it is.
Yes.
And the fact that 49 people lost their lives in 2016 is just sickening.
And like I said, vote, okay? It is important. Vote in local elections, vote in national elections, listen to the candidates, find out their actual stance, because there's a lot of BS going on right now. Okay, no, a certain person, his name is Trump, and this whole thing, and we stay away from talking about him. We stay away from talking about him, but I'm sick of him trying to tout that he's good for the LGBT community while simultaneously stripping away their rights, taking away the ability from trans people
rights,
to serve, and so many other things. But then you can go on his fucking site and you could buy an LGBTQ for Trump shirt. Okay, That's BS. You need to vote and you need to get out. This next election is very, very important for all rights, especially for the rights of people that aren't straight white men. As a straight white man, I'm saying get out there and find out where people's actual platforms are, involve yourself, and vote these people out.
Being in dance and theater, I've been working with the LGBTQ community for as long as I can remember. I mean, I had a gay jazz dance teacher.
What would you say to someone listening to this right now?
That we're with you, that we support you, and that there are so many people out there who support you, and we all need to figure out a way to let love win in some way. And I don't know how we do that and what that means exactly, but we need to combat all this hate somehow. And I'm not really sure what that is, but we're with you and we support you.
You're listening to Fort Fritz.